welcome to STARCAST from Planet Waves. My name is Eric Francis Coppolino, host of Planet Waves FM on Pacifica Radio and the author of the Planet Waves Horoscope. Thank you for joining me. This is the edition for Friday, the 21st of February. Normally would come out Thursday night, but I was not quite up to it. So here we are. Good morning and thanks for joining me. So as you may know, Venus stations retrograde on Saturday, July 22nd. That happens at 9:39 p.m., about 9:30 p.m. And the retrograde goes through Sunday, September 3rd at 9:20 p.m. So that means between basically Saturday and September 3rd, Venus will be retrograde, of course. There are the usual shadow phases on either end that, and I count for interplanet retrogrades, especially if they're in one sign, the entire duration of the planet's visit in that sign. That goes back to June in the case of Venus being in Leo. So another thing of interest involving, well, yes, definitely a thing of interest, but before the retrograde happens, as in right about now, the time that I'm recording, all day Friday and into Saturday, the sun is opposite Pluto, and then the sun opposite Pluto makes a right angle to the lunar nodes. Now that is a whole lot of energy contained in that one aspect pattern, and anyone who has done any work with the nodes understands that they are powerful in ways that people generally do not understand. Even astrologers don't understand how active they are. And also, in particular, the importance of anything that is at 90 degrees to the lunar nodes. The lunar nodes are kind of a spiritual digestive tract. They allow the processing of, let's say, the processing of old karma. They help you orient on what it means to do the right thing. In Vedic astrology, they are considered anchors to the physical plane. So it's always, I think, helpful to keep one toe in the water of what Vedic astrology has to say about the lunar nodes. And an Amich's astrologer, who is my only Vedic astrology reading, but I talked to him many years ago, said that in Vedic Jyotish astrology, both of the nodes are considered malefic. Stick that in quotes, but he explained why. He said that they both are anchors to the physical plane. And the goal of Vedic astrology is to get you off the karmic wheel and into samadhi, I guess that's the word for it, into a kind of a state of liberation from karma. But the nodes are kind of like, in Vedic, considered karma generators, though I think of them, since we are here, all a bunch of earthbound misfits, as David Gilmour said, that the movement of whatever material through the nodes is the essential purpose of the lunar nodes. And when there is something at 90 degrees to the lunar nodes, that's the thing that we must confront. And right now, what is at 90 degrees to the lunar nodes is Pluto, that's going to be hanging out for the rest of the year, but it's exact now. It won't be exact again. And then the sun together. This pattern will not repeat, though the fact that the nodes and Pluto will be in a square, more loose than it is today, through much of the rest of the year is in itself significant, but it really points back to the significance of this particular moment. So what's a Sun-Pluto square opposition about? Well, I think that it is confrontational. Squares are always, I don't mean confrontational like road rage, though it can be. By confrontational, I mean that there is always going to be some kind of a direct engagement, perhaps a little bit of butting of heads. There's going to be confronting a matter that would normally be set aside or kind of like left out of the conversation. We can also contemplate, the kind of cold and impersonal nature of Pluto and Capricorn, Pluto generally, and then the warm, aspiring to be human quality of the sun in Cancer. And so there is that confrontation of the human versus what is perhaps you might say distinctly not human, whatever that is. It could be the impersonal world of Capricorn, right? This corporate government complex structure, which a lot of people are talking about now. They're talking about this confrontation with the corporate structure. Right? The sovereign movement is going strong, and people getting themselves out of their government corporations and government trusts. All this, you may be familiar with what I'm talking about. I'm sure we'll have more about it. My dream guest on this topic would be Alec Zeck, the founder of The Way Forward and The End of COVID. All right, so all that going on, this engage with the big questions, you might say, that since I spend my whole life involved with big questions and more or less ordinary people, I understand the relationship between the big questions and the ordinary people, and there's not much of a meeting between them, and you might think you're going to be seen as a weirdo if you ask something deep, meaningful, philosophical, oriented on your growth. Now, one more thing relating to Pluto per se. We're in the United States Pluto return. This is the peak of the United States Pluto return. This is warming up before the 2020 crisis. It was extant through the 2020 crisis, and now we are in the thick of it, and Pluto is going to retrograde right back over all the positions of the United States Pluto. This affects the whole world, Now, speaking of Pluto, let's just shift the subject slightly. You may have noticed I'm talking more about the transiting Yod pattern. That's a 60-degree angle between Neptune and Pluto. This was a big story through much of the 20th century because Pluto and Neptune were traveling right around the same degree for much of the 20th century. And then this was causing very unusual transit patterns in people's charts that were, let's say, really pushing them pretty hard. And one interesting thing here is that Venus is stationing retrograde right in the focal point of the Yod pattern. If you want to see that, just look at the Venus stations retrograde chart. That's included with the article. You'll see that Pluto, I know if you don't read astrology, this is hard, but it's worth taking 20 minutes to figure this out if it takes that long because I'm explaining it. But you'll see that there's a planet with a red thing there, up that little red golf cue, 29 degrees next to it. Then the blue trident, they're connected by a green line at 27. And then you can see the faint green lines both point to Venus at 28:36, Leo retrograde. Venus is in the spotlight of the Pluto-Neptune transiting Yod. So Venus tends to be kind of assigned pleasure-seeking principles and material principles, and can have a lot to do with appearance, and can have a lot to do with forms of attached love, like love that is based on attachment rather than just on good feelings, and so all of these subjects are in the focus right now, and Venus is going to be sitting there for a couple of days, moving at the speed of Pluto or Neptune, which is not very fast, a couple of arc minutes a day, and so we have this odd thing where an inner planet is in aspect to two very potent outer planets. And the lunar nodes. It is trying the lunar nodes, and is going to be, let's say, very unlike its usual nature in this condition. So we're about to meet evolutionary Pluto rather than pleasure-seeking Pluto. We are about to meet, evolutionary Venus rather than pleasure-seeking Venus. Now, the thing is this, and I learned this from Rick Tarnas, who does this thorough analysis of the nature of Pluto in his book Cosmos and Psyche. Probably it's a book so long no one has ever finished it in the last 15 years. But he he talks about the Dionysian angle of Pluto. I watched a film last night called, it was a documentary about the Doors, narrated by Johnny Depp. Really a very excellent documentary that you get a sense of the dynamics in the band and what Morrison was about versus his bandmates. For example, they had stopped taking drugs and were doing meditation. This is Densmore, Krieger, and Manzarek were the band, and Jim was the vocalist. And I think that we could do more tapping into the Dionysian expression of Pluto. And so Venus may be informing that. I think we don't take enough pleasure in our processes of growth and transformation and deep evolutionary necessities, and we certainly could. All right, that's the basic setup. I'll be back in a couple of hours with a new edition of Planet Waves FM, the AIDS edition, suitable for a chart with a lot of Venus and a lot of Pluto, and yes, a good bit of Mars that I have not gotten into yet. All right, thanks for listening. Leo birthday reading coming out on Monday. Sign up for that thing. Click away there and send some money over to Planet Waves and get some really good astrology. Thanks for listening. Lots of love, and bye for now.